everybody. I'm Ted DiBiase, the $1 Million Man, and everybody's got a price for lazy booking. Hey, this is your Olympic hero, Kurt Angle, and you're listening to the Lazy Booking. No, it's true. It's damn true. Ho! Hey, folks, I'm WWE Hall of Famer Hacksaw Jim Duggan, and if you want to know what's going on in wrestling, check out Lazy Bookings. Ho!
What's up, fam? Welcome to Lazy Booking, live on A2DRadio.com from the Real Talk Studios. And no paper slam's going to happen tonight, by the way, guys.
Damn it!
First half.
Damn it! I wanted in on that.
First half of the show is brought to you by Gibson Mayer LLC, our certified public accountants. Make them yours. GibsonMayer.com. And listen, dude, W-2s are going to be coming in the next month and a half. So make sure you give those guys a call. Check them out on the web. Also by Specialized Physical Therapy. You can find them in Burlington, Princeton, and Cherry Hill, New Jersey. Also find them on the web at SpecializedPhysicalTherapy.com.
Gibson Mayer. That's a little better.
You're in.
There we go.
You're here.
Gibson
You're
Mayer,
here.
get your taxes done by February 1st. Tell them the guys from A2D sent you. You get 15% off.
Boom. There you go.
That's how we roll.
That's right. That's just for being a part of the fam. Our Scanzano Sports poll question this week, guys. How do you grade Daniel Bryan's heel turn? A, B,
Is that what that is?
C/D, apparently, or F? We're on Instagram, Periscope, Facebook, YouTube. Looking forward to talking to the fam. You got Chrome, Ryan Broder on the ones and twos. And joining me this week and the next couple of weeks, filling in for Maddie, will be, this is now my new fill-in tag team. This is Team Diabetes because we have gummies all over in front of us that you can't see. So that's going to be our new tag team name, Team Diabetes.
Team D.
Team D.
The D team.
The D team.
The
I
D
like
team.
it. We're the D team.
The D team.
Mike Mataraki over here joining us. Thanks for filling in, Mikey.
Boom!
We also have our In This Very Ring Universal Championship belt here because the champ is here.
As well as Tito Sente.
Tito's always here.
He's a mainstay.
Can't get rid of that bastard. But I had to make sure that we highlight this, and I hope Jackson Ritz are watching. Hope they're watching. But yeah, guys. So this week we're going to cover Raw and SmackDown. A lot of the same. Another rough Raw.
Maroon.
Pretty decent SmackDown again. And then we're also going to discuss Daniel Bryan. We're going to talk about, the progress report of where we're at with him. And then we're going to we'll cover a couple news points in this day in wrestling as usual.
A few things.
Yeah. So this week, let's just jump in. We'll get to the poll question.
Dive,
Let's just
dive in.
I want to get Raw
do
and
it.
SmackDown out of the way. All right. So
Good Lord, we should.
let's talk about Raw because I wish I could remember off the top of my head what show specifically that Corbin did an interview on, but he talked about how he's now featured on the show in the opening segments and yada yada, and it wasn't like a kayfabe interview, but talked about where all this time later now he's basically the headliner of the opening segments and some of the closing segments. Ironically enough, they're the lowest rated episodes possible. I do believe that this week might have been the lowest rated episode of the modern era. Is that correct?
This was, and I'll repeat the line I used last week, the worst Raw I have ever seen.
Did you think it was worse than last week?
Absolutely.
I did, yes.
Absolutely.
I kind of see.
And I'll tell you what did
That's how we could do the Raw coverage, because let's compare last week to this week, because I steer it slightly to this week, and there's only one reason why.
It's hanging slightly to the
It's
left.
hanging slightly to the left, which 75% of males actually do in this world.
Chrome, here's the issue, okay? In my opinion, last week was just flat out boring. This week, it was boring with a side of what the hell is this?
Yeah.
There's a few decisions that happen, a few segments where I'm watching this. I'm like, okay, why am I watching this? And it wasn't even like I was watching it live. It's like, why am I spending time watching this? I think that's what puts it over the edge to me and says, okay, this past week was worse than 2 weeks ago.
Let's get your drop in before I drop in. Why I don't think it was quite as bad. And listen, I'm talking about, like, if the bar's here, last week was here, I mean, if it's up to the ceiling. Last week was here.
The reason
This week's like right here.
Okay,
I mean, ever so slightly.
the reason for me that it was so bad was there was a complete lack of logic. And I'll point primarily to, like, 3 weeks ago, Dolph Ziggler and Drew McIntyre were a tag team.
Yeah.
And then McIntyre started to align himself with, Corbin and Bobby Lashley. But did that necessarily have to equal a Dolph Ziggler face turn? And if they did they have to rush and have the entire freaking face turn and feud happen on one episode of Raw?
Yeah, I mean, essentially that's kind of the way it.
I mean, it was
that's
like
been the way of it as of late.
it was the biggest rush job ever. And then, you've got Seth Rollins showing up like in his Bane mask, like,
Dean Ambrose,
Well, that's what I meant, Dean Ambrose. Yeah, I mean, it's just like.
which, by the way, was really.
Thank God this was DVR'd and I was watching the Eagles game and went back after the Birds was over.
Yeah, I did the same thing. I was planning on originally watching it on the iPad, but I was like, I'm just going to focus on the game. I was
Right.
decorating my Christmas tree. We were a little late to the show this week, Christmas tree decorating wise. But we did that, and then I went back and I just kind of fast forwarded through a lot. Actually, part of it, I think the last hour I watched on my lunch break the next day, Tuesday. But I agree with you. They hot-shotted the whole Ziggler thing, absolutely.
But hold on. There's hot shotting and then there is just straight out rushing. I don't think
hear
that was
you.
hot shotted. I think they just ran right through it. They're
Listen.
like, oh, we need another babyface. Dolph, you're up. Let's get you out of this thing right now.
But, let's compare last week to this week. Like, last week we had Dean Ambrose getting shots in the ass, and this week he wore a Bane mask, which was, a gas mask that looked
gas
like a Bane
mask.
mask.
It looked like a Bane
But
mask.
it's great that you say the Bane mask, because in one of the Facebook groups that I'm in, Ultimate Wrestling Fanatics, somebody, Andrea Barone, who I know, Andrea Barone, Master Stylist.
Okay.
She shared, you might have seen that meme where it said, when you go online to buy one thing and it had like the Bane mask, and then when it gets delivered, it looks like this, and it was Dean Ambrose.
Was it Ambrose? That's
It was
hilarious.
so good. I think I would take the Bane mask over the shots in the ass, because that was a real, like, what the fuck is this? Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, this is why, while I do agree with that, the reason why the Bane mask and the whole entrance of not only him with the Bane mask, but 50 others with the Bane mask. And first off, they missed an opportunity. I thought for sure Seth Rollins was one of them in the Bane mask.
It should have been.
Like, I thought it was going to be like the old school, like, Undertaker with the Druids. Like, Kane's
Right.
under one of them, or X-Pac,
Yeah.
something. I thought last week I was ready to forget about that, even if it was possible. I thought, okay, this is one bad week. It's a filler. We're going to move on from this.
Yeah.
This entrance with the Bane mask confirmed to me that they once again screwed up Dean Ambrose. Like, it's one thing to do the off-location, quote-unquote, segment with Dean Ambrose and the needles.
Very weird.
But this, with a freaking entrance, with the Bane mask, with his crew, like, I'm more confident that we're going to see more of this than it being just a one-off. And that's hideous to me.
Right. All right. And I understand that. I'm gonna jump to other points because I'm gonna come back to this as well. I also look at last week where you had Alicia Fox doing double duty. You had a Jinder Mahal followed by No Way Jose. It was literally a 3-hour episode of main event, maybe 2 hours and 40 minutes because you had a 20-minute Ziggler-Seth Rollins match. That was really good. What I took out of this week that was positive, that did make sense, was having Finn Balor at different points in the night kind of come out and they started to at least get a little bit of revenge or come up and shifting the other way at random points in the night.
Okay. You get a point on that one.
So there was that. I also look at, and this was something we talked about last week pretty in depth, was the way they were handling the commentary with Renee Young as opposed to Dean Ambrose. They went back to it, or it looked like they were going to go back to it this week, but they finally had her say what should have happened after week 2 or 3, which is what goes on between a husband and wife behind closed doors should be between them, and it's not for your business or anybody else's. That's how they should have handled it after the first or second week, because I was okay with it a week or two. And they finally kind of got there. And I'm hoping next week it does stay there. But
see, now, my question for you is,
it was a loose end that needed to be tied up.
but did they tie it so tight that all they need to do is tug on it a little bit and the whole knot comes out?
I don't know.
Because I wonder if they did that not so much to get her out of the storyline, but to put her deeper into the storyline.
And it could be. And listen, I mean, again, if they're looking at taking her off of commentary, which I don't think they're going to do, it makes sense to figure out a way to kind of get her deeper into it. But otherwise, they have to find an out for it. So I enjoyed that. Not that it was great, but at least Ronda's participation in this show was better than looking like an absolute fool last week.
Agreed.
But again, they make Natty look like the incompetent buddy who is supposed to be there to back you up, but is absolutely just destroyed every week.
Like, Natty is a heart. She shouldn't be getting destroyed every week.
I know.
And
I know.
And this is not like, this doesn't fall directly under the Raw umbrella, but I follow the WWE on the social medias. How many times are we going to get shoved in our face the typical quote-unquote backstage photo with Ronda checking up on Natalya? It's every damn week. Like, come on. It's either A, you're making Ronda look soft and stupid, like, oh, why am I hanging out with this chick? Like, what are we fighters or are we babysitters? And two, like, to Mike's point, she's a heart. Why is Ronda checking up on a heart?
Yeah.
Every week on Instagram. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me.
The one I'm just going to drop this comment because I don't know how long he's going to hang in, but my buddy Mike Rock, who lives in Florida, said Tyler Breeze deserves to be champion. # change my mind. He's also Tyler's next door neighbor.
Dude, you won't get any argument out of me.
Listen,
I'm the biggest Tyler Breeze mark there is.
And listen, that he's an awesome dude and a great talent. Maybe one day they'll figure something out to do with him, but you're not going to get us to argue with you, Mikey. We're with you on that. I don't know if he's ever going to be champion.
Everyone, it's Tyler.
Like, everyone in this studio right now are Tyler Mark
We're
Breezes.
Tyler Mark.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're Tyler Breeze Marks.
I didn't know how
whatever.
long he was going to drop in, so I wanted to make sure
That's
that he heard
awesome.
me drop the comment in
I
there.
love that.
On Facebook, Tom Arnone says, "Sup, my dudes? What's up,
Tom?
Andy Ritter says, "What's up, gentlemen? Daniel Bryan heel turn is lackluster at best. It's not overwhelming or underwhelming. It's just whelming."
It's fickle.
Sean's, well, that's kind of, I mean, he emphasized what Daniel Bryan says. Absolutely. Sean Spellman says the Daniel Bryan heel turn was like if Hulk Hogan farted when he turned heel in the ring. That would be Daniel Bryan's heel turn.
Fickle.
Ritter says, I'm here, going to be in and out all night. Live reaction from Raw. God bless, was it rough? He was in the crowd. Him and Jax were in the crowd in
Fickle.
Houston. However, if you look hard enough, you can find Jax and Ritz.
Okay.
Sean Spellman said this Raw was worse than going in Raw on a fertile hooker. I like that, buddy.
Well, you know what's funny is I got I got 3 of them this week. WWE pre-sale notifications. I got one for a house show in Allentown. Delete. I got one for the WrestleMania or the WWE Holiday Tour.
Delete.
At I guess it's Nassau. I guess it was Nassau Coliseum.
Deleted.
And then I got one for Monday Night Raw in March, and I was like,
well, that's the WrestleMania build-up.
I'm like, that's WrestleMania build-up, but
They always come to Philly for the build-up.
delete.
That one I might consider.
I basically threw it out there, and I said, you know what? If it's free, I might go, but I am not spending any more money on this product until after WrestleMania.
Well, that would probably be like a last minute when tickets drop. I might pick one up and go, but I'm not planning on going to that. Andy says, supposedly Vince rewrote Raw this week because of 41 dying. Because of President Bush. I don't know what 41 was for a minute.
But
Which,
I mean,
by the way, rest in peace to President Bush.
Yeah.
I'm curious as to what would have provoked him to rewrite it. I would love to know what they had planned that they backed off of because of that.
All right. He says he wanted fans to have feel-good moments and have the faces win. That's why Balor was so focused.
Interesting.
Interesting.
Well, given that they were in Houston, which is, I mean, home state of the Bush family. So
Yeah. Peter Evans says the writers just need to get out of their own way. Like, seriously, why did my man have a Bane mask on since when Raw turned into the Dark Knight? True. Brian Daly from Hockey Happy Hour, which they will be with you guys live at 10 p.m. tonight here on A2D Radio.
From Triple H.
From Triple H.
Triple H.
He says,
Hockey
what's up,
Happy Hour?
boys? What's up, Brian?
What's up, Brian?
Frank Vespi dropping in. Hey, yo. Sorry to bother you at work. Should not happen. Rest in peace, Dynamite Kid.
Oof, yeah.
And Andy says Natalya is being written off due to elbow injury, and Ember is taking her place. Fair enough, but they've been kind of doing this for a while now, and it's just kind of nonsensical.
Well, you know, at one point there was
take her off.
The rumor that there was going to be a Ronda and Natty feud.
Sure,
exactly.
And I almost wonder if some of this whole, every week Ronda is bailing her out or checking on her or whatever, what won't eventually somewhere down the road lead to a, I'm sick and tired of sticking up for you, part of the inevitable Ronda heel turn, because she is going to have to turn heel at some point if they're going to do the horsewomen versus horsewomen.
Yeah.
So, maybe they're just planting seeds, but I agree with you, Ryan. It's freaking annoying.
And I agree with you. Like, common sense would point to, they're probably planting seeds, but we all know about WWE. Like, I feel like you might be giving them too much credit.
They plant them and don't water them.
Well,
ever.
It's either the few long-term plans they have, 9 out of 10 of them they'll abandon because Vince just changes his mind on a random Monday or Tuesday. And then 2, we all know that except for the top people, they never plan ahead. Even in Mania season, they'll have like 3 or 4 top matches, and that's it. So nobody, like Natalya and Ronda, is not going to happen at WrestleMania or Rumble or anything, as far as a main pay-per-view. So I'm afraid we might just be giving them too much credit. It's just like, oh, okay, we want the fans to relate to Ronda, and she's sympathetical. Oh, she's relatable. She has a best friend. Oh my God! And Natalya is just somebody they're sacrificing in this position.
See, what I might beg to differ slightly is I do believe that Mania there is a plan now. A lot of it's penciled in, and that's due to what my other issue is.
Very lightly penciled in.
Depending. But my issue with it is not that they don't have an initial plan. It's that there's never really a solid backup plan if somebody gets hurt, which in turn leaves them scrambling. But I actually do believe that, particularly this time of year after like TLC and they start getting the Rumble, I think a lot of that's a little harder penciled in.
Oh, that absolutely is. But when when it's pertaining to the certain situation with Natalya and Ronda, that is nowhere in close sight, in my opinion, especially if this injury with her elbow is true.
Yeah.
David Roska chimes in. What's up, boys?
What up, Roska?
Raw sucks right now. As a Universal Champion, I will be holding 836 days in 3 years since July 24th, 2016 at Battleground in Battle Royal. Don't exactly know what that means, but if you're saying that you're the Universal Champion, God bless you, brother.
Yeah, type him,
in fairness,
David.
In fairness, it could be possible because Battleground is the worst pay-per-view and nobody watches it. So if he actually did go and win something, nobody would know about it. That's just in fairness.
It's truth.
I went to the one in Philly was one of the worst things I've ever been to in my life.
You mean the main event that you couldn't see?
No, but we got the ultimate prize out of it, so that was good.
Yes, you did.
We did. When we went to Battleground in Philly, the 2 featured matches, which were Rusev and Cena, and then obviously the Punjabi Prison match with Orton and Mahal. They were back to back the whole last hour of the show. We couldn't see anything, and we were 4th row. We spent like over $400 on tickets.
Oh God!
So my buddy wrote WWE and said, "Dude, I spent all this money on these tickets, and I couldn't even see the featured matches of it." So they gave us choices. Certain things were out. You couldn't get Mania, a couple of things, but for the most part, we had to pick. So we ended up going to.
Didn't you get the suite tickets for Royal Rumble?
We got the suite. No, I won those on the Wells Fargo thing. No, I feel like it was a pay-per-view in Baltimore we might have gone to, or maybe not. I don't know. We went, and I know we got NXT TakeOver tickets, though.
Oh, that's cool.
Right.
SummerSlam weekend, so that was cool. But yeah. No, the Natalya thing, again, if she's hurt, that's fine. I understand that.
Mhm.
And Ember is the most logical person, by the way, to fill in for that at this point. I do think that they're priming her for some sort of a push. I don't know if it's going to be the main event push or maybe just kind of taking the next year when Ronda eventually winds down a year or two from now to be one of the featured women.
She could very easily be the next champion on that show.
She could at some point, especially if
She
they do a
could.
superstar shakeup.
I still want to know why they don't just have Nia literally just knocking everyone out. If you're gonna
She
talk,
should- she
if you're
should be-
gonna talk about the fist that much, you got to knock somebody out
yeah.
every week.
So I kind of thought this week they might do it. 'cause
I thought
she
so, too.
teased like she was going to punch in the face, and then she did like a weird body shot.
Yeah.
And I feel like this should be the big show knockout
Thank
punch
you.
for her.
Yes.
And I agree with you. It's a huge missed opportunity by not doing that.
Even if it's got to be on like a guy,
Yeah.
you know,
Do it on Corbin.
that would be awesome.
That'll get an incredible pop.
It would, but then that's like a face move.
Wow,
So-
they have no identity with anybody anymore.
Question for you, gentlemen, while we're still on Raw. Do you believe in any possible way, and something that we know all too well in this town, the concept of tanking? Do you believe that they are tanking Raw right now, either A, for storyline purposes, to where Stephanie could come back and say to Baron Corbin, you've produced 2 of the lowest rated Raws of all time in the last month, blah, 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 you're fired. Or could they be tanking Raw as they build up to SmackDown Live on Fox so that they can eventually sort of flip that A show, B show moniker from the A show being Raw to the A show being SmackDown Live?
I'll chime in on the first one.
Okay.
all right? I believe that if they were going to go storyline with this, in turn to make Stephanie come back and confront Corbin, they wouldn't go on the lines of ratings. They would spin it where there's absolute chaos on Raw. There's a lot of run-ins, a lot of disqualifications. They would spin it in a safer option to where Stephanie could say there is no control on the show anymore, as opposed to the show isn't being watched as much.
Well, okay, I'm going to disagree with you, and I don't disagree with your reasoning. Like, I think your logic is sound. I would just say if Corbin was a babyface, absolutely. But with Corbin as a heel, I don't think the heel worries so much about chaos.
Well, I would say you're right. I could see them spinning it in not him caring about chaos, but what does he always talk about? Respect your leader.
Right.
And if there's chaos, that means,
means no
that anybody
respect.
under him doesn't respect the leadership.
Right.
So basically, Stephanie could say, you act like you run the place, you confront everybody, but no one's afraid of you, and nobody respects you. And then that could lead them to kind of burying him and do what they always do, bury someone, then build him up again.
Quite possible.
I'm going to say absolutely not, because a publicly traded company is not going to take risks on a storyline to tank their show and then have the worst ratings in the history of the show.
Why? They already have the Fox money.
But it doesn't make a difference.
Contract signed.
Yeah, no, but they still got a long way to go from there and a lot of money they could still lose. Particularly, you're talking about, we don't know where Saudi Arabia is at. If that comes off the table,
true.
that's a lot of lost money for this company at this point, right? So, I don't believe that that's going to happen. I just believe it's incompetence from the writing team. I also believe that this is the result for all the people who trashed and dumped on the show when Roman Reigns was the featured guy. You now have a Universal Champion that is not on the show. You now have one of your biggest stars who every single week was there, who every pay-per-view put on a great match, whether you want to admit it or not, with every big name in the company is no longer there. You had the contingency plan from John Cena to Roman Reigns. You don't have that luxury, so now it's a scramble to figure out who do you have that could be the flagship bearer. And we talked about last week, who could the people in the company be that may step up and be the next Roman Reigns. And then if you didn't get a chance, go back and watch our show from last
That was
week.
a good show last
It's
week.
archived on A2D on the YouTube page and on the Facebook page. We had a very in-depth conversation and dropped a top 5 on that. But
I mean, if you look at the Raw roster right now, though, I mean, clearly, like, starting at the top, you have Brock Lesnar, who is not contractually obligated to appear more than a handful of times a year.
correct.
Yep.
You have Roman Reigns, who, everyone knows the situation there. And for anybody who thinks Roman's going to be back before 2020, highly doubtful.
I'm telling you, it's not physically possible for this guy to be
3
back.
years.
I think the earliest anybody sees him, unless The Rock gets inducted into the Hall of Fame, in which case I would expect him to try to show up for that.
If he's healthy enough.
If he's healthy enough, exactly. But I think the earliest anybody sees Roman, and this is best case scenario, would be the Rumble in 2020. And that's best case scenario.
Yeah.
I tend to side more along the lines of you guys, like Rumble 2021.
Because if he came back 2020,
It's
he would be a
about
one-off.
It's a year and a half.
It would be a one-off, then he would go away again. Because
Probably.
the first time he comes back, it's going to be extremely limited schedule.
Yeah.
They'll have to build up. He can't come back on the road and go full throttle. It's got to be an extremely long build-up back to it.
And and just to kind of bring it back to full circle, it's not just – it's all those factors, and I truly believe it's the outdated incompetence. And I'm not even looking at Vince McMahon. It's you're looking at the Road Dogg, who is the main primary agent and one of the main creative guys on SmackDown, who has always been a creative guy and been able to be a very entertaining guy and kind of have a feel for the audience and what they want. And then you look at a Michael P.S. Hayes, who
Michael P.S. Hayes.
who, listen, I mean, the guy's a legend. And there was a time where his views on things still worked. But it's very clear that it's a very dated – it's almost like looking at baseball and talking about a guy who will accept some analytics but has a little old school in him with the eye test and feeling the situation. And then a guy who's totally just old school, doesn't understand the way the game is now and the economics of the game, and just totally doesn't get it, like a Larry Boa. Like, literally, that's how I feel like it is. And it's night and day, and you're starting to see that now because this is the time where you could really maximize those secondary storylines, all right? We don't have anything big for the main event right now. We're just doing some filler to get to Royal Rumble. Cool. The U.S. title could be something that they could be featuring right now, and they kind of sort of tease a little bit with Nakamura, but like the Intercontinental title, like it's in a main program, but there's no feature to it. Like those guys don't need it. You could be putting that title elsewhere and allowing that to be a focal point,
Right.
But because basically Ambrose and Rollins are possibly, I mean, maybe McIntyre. I mean, Strowman's out.
Well, that's where where I was going
Yes,
next.
yes,
Was
yes.
so you have Brock, who works a limited schedule. Roman's out. Braun's out. Kevin Owens is out. Sami Zayn is out. I mean, that's 5 top line performers there.
Yeah.
Jericho is doing his stuff with New Japan. That's another one who you'd have to figure. And maybe this is another topic for another time, but you'd have to figure that when Roman went out, if Jericho wasn't doing stuff with New Japan, Vince probably would have been on the phone with him.
Well, let's go
agree.
deeper too. And this is going to sound like so 2012 right now, but they need John Cena. If John Cena wasn't filming right now, Vince is on the phone with him.
Absolutely.
He'd be back because I know Cena's kind of, he's really going out of wrestling right now, but if he's here, people watch.
He's
Even
a
if it's
company
not
man,
good, people watch. And like you guys said, it's a combination of all of your top guys going out very, very, very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously your guy, your top-of-the-line guy, Roman, going out suddenly, your main champion not showing up except for like 5 times a year, never wrestling. And then your next best storyline, which should be good. On paper, it's really good. Seth Rollins versus Dean Ambrose, IC title in the picture, 2 members of the Shield. That's where the writing comes in.
Now,
that makes that look really bad.
Now, what I will also add in, though, is this shows the difference in although the company or I'm sorry, the industry has evolved, one thing that's been really negative with the evolution is that there's only one main guy. And
Right.
when that chip is gone, everything falls. As opposed to in the 80s, like Hogan was the guy. But they built other main event talents.
You
like,
need to get out of my head right
like
now.
a warrior, like a savage.
Because I was just about to say to
who
you,
could
like,
step in and carry the company.
right, but if you look at WrestleMania 3, okay, it was Hogan and Andre, but if you ask millions of wrestling fans around the world what was their favorite match on that show?
Savage
Steamboat.
Yep.
It was because Savage was built up to be, that half a notch under Hogan.
Yeah, he was going to be the next guy. And Steamboat at that point had been pretty well known through the NWA and was now being featured. And people were like, oh, this guy's a special talent, somebody to keep an eye on. But they built other guys around them. Now it's like we're full throttle on this guy. And it started basically with Cena, and now it's Roman. And now they're feeling the effects of that.
And, Mike, I believe you had talked about last week on the show that you were saying, like, why don't they bring up somebody like Aleister Black or a Velveteen Dream? And I was thinking about that with a main roster guy. I was thinking the other day, and I understand the man I'm about to bring up is involved with something on SmackDown, but it's nothing major. I was thinking, okay, just to buy time, just to switch it up, why haven't they gone and done some emergency trade and they put Randy Orton, turn him face, and put him on Raw?
Actually,
just to make that something.
It's funny because in the YouTube chat, Niber Oropeza just said Randy Orton.
Oh, there you go.
So you guys are definitely on the same page there.
But I kind of...
The fam in the studio and on the chat, we're all on the same level tonight. I love
everybody's
it.
there.
Love it.
And then I went on and thought about that, and this kind of goes to your question, Mike, on why Raw is the way it is, why are they kind of settling with this. I believe they haven't made a drastic move like to get somebody in NXT, bring them up very quickly, or do some breaking news type of a trade, which would be easy to do. Just announce it on Twitter. You don't have to explain anything. Is that I believe Vince, and this could be justified in the long run, he believes that in the next couple months it's going to build up no matter what because you're going to have Rumble and WrestleMania,
Sure.
and he knows
I think that's a fair
people
point.
are going to start coming back eventually, meaning the superstars off of the shelf, and two, people are going to watch anyway because they have so much invested in that 3 to 4 month slot that they're just going to, okay, we're going to put out our best. If people watch, they watch. And I think Vince honestly thinks the hardcore fans are going to watch no matter what. Like, we're going to watch no matter what. We know it sucks right now, but we're watching it.
No, and I think, too, A, you're absolutely right. I agree with that. They're doing a lot of scotch taping it just to get there right now.
Yeah.
B, I do believe if there is an interesting game as far as Monday Night Football goes, that I believe they're packing it in a little bit because they know that the ratings aren't going to be that high anyway. So they're not throwing anything that's too crazy out there, which has kind of been their history.
Yeah.
It's tough
But
when it's football season.
It's never quite been
Never been this bad. I agree. I
And
absolutely agree.
They have no If it's 10 years ago when they were competing with TNA, or I don't even know if it was exactly 10 years ago, but when they were in the war, the Monday Night Wars Part 2, if that was still happening today, it would be a much different approach. But really, they're not competing with anybody anymore.
Well, let me ask you guys another question. Big picture, do you think Vince kind of looks at this as, well, okay, Raw is struggling a little bit, but when I look at my bottom line, because to him it's all one product. If I look at my bottom line, SmackDown is doing great, NXT is doing great, NXT UK is picking up steam, even 205 Live is picking up steam. My product overall is doing damn well. Can I afford to take a hit for a couple months on Raw?
I mean, that could be that's a possibility. That makes a little more sense than tanking for a storyline. I absolutely agree.
I don't even know if he would say, "Can my product take a hit?" But in a way,
I think he would say it can.
Well, yes.
He's that brash.
And two, I don't even know if he would take that approach. I think he would turn it into a positive, and I don't even think he would be that wrong. Because what have we been doing on the air and off the air the last handful of weeks? We've been appreciating SmackDown more. People were talking about NXT more because now that Raw has kind of sucked, it's caused those to start to branch out and look for other outlets at the moment on the WWE umbrella. Like, oh, wait, now that Raw sucks, let's see what NXT's doing. Oh, 205 Live. Oh, NXT UK.
And, oh, by the way, I only have to watch NXT for an hour, not 3 hours.
Yeah.
Couple questions here from John C. Danzo I want to get to. One, I'm going to hit his second question first because it does kind of fall into this. He says, what about putting things behind Finn Balor? What I say, and this actually goes into the previous question asked.
Preaching to the choir right
Yeah.
here, and everybody
Listen,
knows that.
Yep.
We're behind Finn 100%. But this kind of goes with what we were just talking about when we talked about why I don't think they would take the approach, and I'm glad they didn't take the approach of hot-shotting an NXT person like an Aleister Black. If there's a end road for these guys, whether it's a short road or a long road, I'd rather see them do that. Is you bring up a guy like an Aleister Black or even a Johnny Gargano, who maybe arguably Gargano should be up anyway, but if he's doing what he's doing now, that's the plan. Stick with it. Is you put a lot of pressure on these guys to step in and try to be the guy right away. B, I feel like there's so much underutilized talent like Finn Balor that is on the roster that it's almost a major strike against them or a major hit to them in long term by saying, all right, we know the situation we're in. None of these guys can handle it, though. I got to hotshot one of these guys up.
And I don't disagree with that at all, as a matter of fact, but I think that happens because that's what we've been conditioned to.
Sure.
Like, they've buried somebody like Finn Balor so much that we, as a group, think they're going to go get somebody and bring them up from NXT before they give Finn Balor another shot. And that's a shame. It really is.
I'm going to name another guy who, when he debuted in NXT, he wasn't in NXT for very long, but when he was there, I remember having conversations with Maddie, a year or two before we even started the show, and I said, this man can't fail on the main roster. Like, there's some guys, like we've talked about, like I worry about Velveteen Dream, if that's going to translate. Like Tyler Breeze. Like, there's certain guys that oh my God, we worry about him. This man, I did not worry about, and they ruined him immediately. That's Apollo Crews.
Yeah.
Apollo Crews, when he came in 2 years ago.
I thought he would really be – I thought that dude was going to get over big time.
Imagine if they didn't completely ruin that whole thing. How valuable could he – I'm not saying he'd be the champion, the main guy, but as a solid mid-card babyface who they don't have right now?
Well, and I agree with that, but I think the thing with Apollo Crews was they brought him up, and then they didn't do anything with him.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it was almost like he came up for no reason other than, like, okay, you've really proved that you're good enough in NXT. We have nothing for you down there, so we're gonna send you up.
It was a standard Monday after WrestleMania call up. It was the same. I think it was the same one. I don't know if it was the same episode as when they brought up Neville, or if it was the year after. But it was a similar thing of that. It's like, okay, we always bring up two guys.
Yeah.
Here you go, Apollo. You're one of them.
No, and I think, too, like, you remember when we went to Raw a couple of months ago? He had a promo. It was one of his best promos he's had.
With Elias.
It was his best promo that he's had.
Because he was basically like a work shoot on Elias, and it was great.
He had back-to-back weeks on Raw with good promos. And that was one of the knocks, was that he wasn't charismatic enough on the mic, which may have been the detriment.
Right.
Well, now, okay, dude's got a little momentum. Let's see where we go with this. No, the attention span. It's like the consumer who can't watch a commercial anymore, or the consumer who has to get right to the end of the thing. They're not worried about what happens in the middle. It's all right. If we're not right away, it's done. I'm just 2 weeks. Didn't quite get me to that point. Not enough people talking right away. Done. Instead of letting it gradually grow. And that was where we sat in the seats and are like, they might have something here finally for this guy.
Yeah. Hey, I'm right there with you, because I was like, I mean, he's cutting this promo, and I'm just like, who's this?
Yeah.
I mean, I like it. I like it a lot, but who's this?
There's nothing he can't do in the ring.
Oh.
I mean, he fits. I mean, he checks every box.
Yeah.
Or at least enough boxes to have airtime on a consistent basis.
Yeah. The next question. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, with him, I mean, realistically, do you think he's somebody who may have been better off had they not even run him through NXT at all?
No.
Well,
Maybe just kind of sent him to the Performance Center to teach him the WWE way, and then had him debut right on the main roster.
I don't know because we talked about the mic work needing to happen, and I think that tells me that as far as how WWE does staging and camera work and stuff, I think he would have needed that time to learn that.
All right,
I
fair
actually
enough.
think they rushed him up because when he was down there,
It's possible.
he was in a feud with Corbin. Then he turned heel for 3 seconds. Then he came up as a babyface, and he was like a secondary or third, type guy.
Right.
Yeah. I think if you had, he didn't even. I'm not even saying he should have won the belt, but give him a run as just a challenger.
Yeah.
See what he can do. See
Let him do the
his
chase.
range, and then. If he flops and if he doesn't get anything, then keep him down there. Or if he takes off, which he would have, his debut means that much more.
And listen, in wrestling, I always say wins and losses really don't matter that much. It's about the storyline, right?
Absolutely.
Right.
And just as important as winning a title can be the chase.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And chasing for 2, 3, 4, 5 months until you have whatever payoff it is, whether they finally win it or they lose it, and then you move it on to the next thing.
It's really interesting that you said that because I just had this conversation with someone online not 2 days ago. There was a clip it was Dusty versus Ric Flair in the cage, and Dusty wins the title after like a 40-minute cage match with a roll-up.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy said, the guy's comment was, why after such a long, grueling match do you have Dusty win the title with a roll-up? Said it's actually quite simple. Said it's shock factor. You get a huge pop out of the babyface winning the match, but you keep the former champion looking strong because the belt is going back to Flair at some point because the money is not in Dusty winning the championship. The money's in the chase.
Absolutely.
So you make the money, you give the payoff, and then you got to go back and start all over again.
No, and even in that,
But the same thing applies.
You're absolutely right.
In the current era as well.
Check, check, check. You hit all the check marks. The only thing I would add to that too is that when you're telling that story of that night, it's that these guys went tooth and nail for 40 minutes, and whatever they threw at each other, they just couldn't get it done. And it was just going to be the luck of the draw. Whoever
3 seconds
had got those 3 seconds over, and that small package or roll up was what it took, because they were just battling through everything. It tells a better story, particularly at that time. The other question that John had was, who are the top 5 ladies and bottom 5 ladies? Who do you think will get pushed and who will get released? I don't know if I'll go 5. I could throw a couple of names. I mean, the top 5 ladies to me are clear. And one thing I'll say, Asuka's best promo was this week.
Oh, yeah.
Since she's been up, easily her best promo. And
I loved it.
if she continues to kind of do the kind of broken English, but I like when she kind of goes like nuts and yells the Japanese in their face. I kind of like that.
But I love, she looks at Becky and she's like, I already beat you.
Yeah.
And she looks at Charlotte and is like, and you got lucky.
Yeah, I love that.
Oh, it's like, as soon as she said you got lucky, I just started rolling because I'm like, okay, that's how they're gonna spin that.
Absolutely.
And I'm buying right into it.
If I was to say top 5 women,
That's a great question.
I think the top 5 women are easy. The bottom 5 are a little bit tougher, but I would say clearly it's Ronda, Becky Lynch, Charlotte, Asuka, Alexa Bliss. I don't think there's
And then if the rumors about Alexa are true, and she's done in ring, which I don't know for sure yet.
I thought Mark Henry, he was on Busted Open Radio, and he said that she's been fine. The problem is she came back too soon the first time. He said she's been cleared for a few weeks.
Yeah, I think
They're
I've heard
just-
that she's good.
They said she's in the middle of this storyline,
And
that they're going to bring her back.
They're going to bring her back.
Yeah, but
Okay.
apparently she's fine.
Yeah, because they've emphasized that Corbin has put her in this power, and she is still an active in-ring
I think she
performer.
tweeted something like a week ago, too,
Yeah.
saying, like, all good, something along those lines. But I did hear that same rumor, though.
Now, would you guys disagree with? So let's put Alexa Black in, back in. Well, would you disagree with that top 5.
No.
I think we're all pretty solid on that. Now, if we're going bottom, if I'm talking about potential releases, I always think of Alicia Fox at some point, but she's been with the company for so long, and they always find a spot for her. Alicia, Dana Brooke.
I would say I would give you not released, but no longer in ring would be Lana. I think they could just isolate her role as Rusev's manager and kind of pull back on her in ring stuff.
I don't know if they're going to do that though.
I'm just
it's
I'm kind
something
of
they
just
could
spitballing here. Yeah,
This one's tough because it seems like she's always been on the border, but the heritage she has. What about Tamina?
Tamina.
I don't think they'll just because the lineage.
But I think that's the only thing that keeps her in a job right now is McMahon guilt over the Snuka family.
I think as well, and they're involved in stuff right now. But I think once this riot, the Riot Squad, right? That's what they're called. They
Sarah.
Yeah.
What the hell's her last name?
Logan.
Logan.
Sarah
right.
Logan. Yeah.
She's a good worker, but I don't. When
She's
I look at the
third.
roster, I just don't know if there's.
I'm not all that excited about Liv Morgan right now.
I like Liv.
I mean, I like her. I'm just like the Riots outside of Ruby Riot, the Riot Squad does nothing for me.
What about Billy Kay?
Stop
No.
it.
I don't want it.
You shut your mouth.
You
when
heard the
you're talking
tone.
to me.
You heard the tone.
Somebody mute his mic. He's
Neither.
done.
I have the board.
Neither
You're on
of the
timeout.
I have the
Iconics
board.
are going anywhere.
Reprimand,
I agree with that.
reprimand yourself over there.
I don't want it to happen.
I'm gonna do my flair on you. You shut your mouth.
You can't be iconic duo if you're not a duo.
You shut it.
They are so. I love them. I absolutely love everything they do.
You're telling me?
Yeah.
You're telling us?
Brodo and I text each other when we see them on the screen.
It's time. Like the UFC announcer.
Dude, I'm old enough to be Peyton Royce's father, and I don't even care.
I'm gonna be the guy to say it. Sorry, David Rosca. The time will come where the Mandy Rose bandwagon will come and go, and we'll realize that she's not that great of a worker.
See, I disagree.
She's gonna get passed. I think she's gonna get passed by at some
I
point.
I think she's gotten better.
But
they're gonna push
still,
her.
But
they like her.
see, I think of that duo. I think they really see a lot with Sonya Deville, particularly with their, and I said it last week, with their emphasis on MMA and kind of infusing these people in the background. I think there's going to be a strong push for her, particularly when those horsewomen start coming up. That'll be a very interesting spot for her. I don't think it's an accident she was in one of the final people.
Oh, no, not
with
at all.
Asuka.
No,
But
and it was a good sequence. Too.
I will say this, though. For WWE, the one area where I will give them credit is not so much continuity of storyline, but continuity of performance.
Mm-hmm.
Because so they have the tag match on Tuesday, Asuka and Charlotte versus Mandy and Sonya. But if you go back and you look at what WWE was doing over the weekend, they had a little mini tour of Mexico. I think it was like Mexico City and some other little podunk town down there. And the matches on that tour, the two women's matches on the tour were Charlotte against Mandy and Asuka against Sonya. And they just basically took those two singles matches and put it into a tag match and put it on TV Tuesday night. And for me, it worked.
Yeah, I thought,
and I thought Mandy looked good.
I have an idea. So I have literally the entire roster up. I'm going to go down the list of every, at least on here, every women's wrestler.
Let's go 2 years, the benchmark.
Exactly.
Are they going to be on the roster in 2
safe
years?
or not safe? And not
Safe
should.
or not safe? Safe or not safe?
And we're
I like
saying
that.
2 years.
Yes.
2 years.
And this is not, is it
I like your
should or
style.
will? Like, is this what we want to happen or just based off of what we
I'm
think
going to go
will
by
happen?
what we'll think will. What
Exactly.
I think will happen.
Exactly. All right, so Alexa Bliss.
Yes.
Safe.
Safe.
Alicia Fox.
Nope.
In danger. Yeah.
Danger. Asuka.
Oh, yeah.
This one is going to be very interesting. Bailey.
I'm going to say not safe.
I would agree with that.
The only thing that's keeping me from saying not safe, the merchandise and the reputation with the young kids.
And that's a fair point, but 2 more years of Bailey floundering outside of a potential 4 horsewomen feud concerns me.
This is an easy one. Becky Lynch.
Safe. Yeah.
Billy Kay.
Safe.
Brie Bella.
Nope.
I think they'll be done by then.
At least as a wrestler, absolutely.
Yeah.
But she'll be around because of the TV show.
Well,
There's always a spot for her with the company.
Well,
but I think-
that's why I asked. When you said 2 years, and I was like, okay,
Yeah.
because I could see 2 years, Total Divas and Total Bellas being done.
Yeah.
And if those 2 shows are done, I think the Bellas are gone.
Yeah.
Honestly.
John C. Danzo, he thinks that Bailey's safe.
Okay.
He says Bailey is safe. Enough said.
I'm interested in this one.
I don't know, buddy. We'll see.
Carmella.
I'm worried about her.
I say danger.
Well, I mean, at this point now, she's not really doing a whole heck of a lot in ring. I think they're moving away from her. She's out.
I'm going to be the guy who says it, though. I enjoy the dance breaks. I don't know why I do.
No,
I normally
No, you know you do.
The
You
dance
know
breaks
exactly
are
what-
awesome.
I
Yeah,
normally hate that kind of stuff. I absolutely
No,
love it.
it's-
Like Miz TV this week, just kind of coming out.
Yeah.
Miz. Dance break. And then have a good show.
I actually think
I love it.
think dance break needs to be a little bit longer.
I do, too. I love it.
It needs to run at least a minute.
But I'm going to say danger. I'm going to say she's
I agree.
not safe.
Dana Brooke.
Yeah,
Danger.
gone.
Not safe.
She might be gone tomorrow.
It's fair. Ember Moon.
Safe.
Let's see. I almost said JoJo. Lana.
I'm going to if we're going 2 years, I'm going to lean more towards what you said. She'll be safe with the job, but
Right.
unsafe with if she's going to be working in ring. I'm going to say unsafe.
And you and I are in complete lockstep.
I
with
think
that.
her.
That's if Rusev stays, though.
Well,
I'm not
there you
100%
If
convinced.
Rusev goes, she goes.
But my only
Yep.
issue is I think Lana is more safe with the company
Then
as
he
far
is.
as Rusev is.
Oh.
So it intrigues me because I don't think he leaves if she stays. And I don't think she stays in the ring if he stays. It's interesting.
what if he
There's a
gets-
lot of domino effects that
But
could
what if
happen with that.
he's gone, but not by his choice? What if it's a release?
I could see that being like a CM Punk, AJ Lee kind of deal.
Yeah. One
He's
goes, the other
gone,
goes.
she goes. Yeah,
Yeah.
we've seen that a few
Because
times.
if he goes,
John Morrison and what was her name?
Melina.
Melina.
Yeah, Melina.
Same kind of a similar deal with that.
I mean,
he stuck around a little longer, but he was pissed. One of the reasons he left was he was kind of pissed about the way the whole Melina thing went down.
Can I make a bold prediction?
Absolutely.
Within the next 2 years,
Lana will be the champion.
Rusev will be released. Lana will go with him. They will show up on Impact as soon as his non-compete is over.
Oh, sure.
She will be speaking perfect English. He will be working under his real name, and they will put the Impact World title on him his first night in.
Oh, probably.
I could see
that's
that-
what they do with everybody now.
I could see Rusev being somebody that goes away, gets really big, and then comes back.
Comes back.
Kind of like a McIntyre. Liv Morgan.
I'd say not safe.
Not safe.
Agreed. Mandy Rose. I say safe.
I don't know. I'm going to say unsafe.
See, I think she's going to be champion one day.
2 years from now.
See, I would say that she's probably less safe now than she will be then.
Yep.
Because I think if she continues to improve, especially, with the eye candy aspect of it, as long as her in-ring work improves, she's safe based on the looks. If the in-ring work doesn't improve, then it's a problem.
Maria Kanellis.
I think her and Mike are both going to be gone very soon.
I agree.
Maurice. I would say
I think
safe because of
The
Miz
Miz,
and
yeah.
and the show.
She really doesn't do in-ring unless it's a special thing now. I think she's only
True.
had, 1 or 2 in-ring matches.
True.
She will always have a job now as
Oh,
long
yeah.
as Miz is there, and Miz will be there forever.
Another interesting one. Mickey James.
She'll be gone soon.
I think she'll be gone, but I think that'll be under her own
Yeah.
reasoning. I think she's going to actually end up being one of those people who is present at the Performance Center.
I could see that.
I absolutely think that she's going to be.
I could actually see her being one of the ladies that kind of just sort of comes and goes over
Yeah.
the next few years.
Yeah.
I don't want to say Jericho-like, but I will say Jericho-like, where she'll come in for 3-4 months at a time and then very quietly disappear, and she may not come back for a year, but then she'll come back for 2-3 months, whatever. The interesting thing about that for me would be if WWE ever signs Nick Aldis, then where do they go with her? Does she then become like a full-time performer again?
I still think she'll be involved with the company. I think she's one of those, they bought her in, given her that run, and a good last run, like a lengthy one. But I think ultimately the vision for bringing her back was to help not just in the ring now, but long-term,
right,
at the Performance Center to get the next generation ready.
What if they do something, like obviously they're doing this with Alexa Bliss. She's kind of like the women's GM. Could you see them in the future doing that full-time, not with her, but a women's wrestler or, somebody of authority?
That's a fair
that
question.
Could be Mickie James because you can say, oh, she has the experience of it.
So that's a fair question because I've actually thought about that a lot over the last month or two.
Mm-hmm.
I like the idea of it. I know that we try to keep everybody on an even playing field, but I do like the idea of it. To me, it actually highlights them as, it's that important of a division that they need to have their own authority figure to, kind of see over everything. So I actually really like that idea, and it does create opportunities to bring different people, whether it's legends or people who unfortunately maybe get hurt and can't perform in the ring anymore.
Yes.
Like Paige, it gives them an opportunity to continue to be a part of the company.
Well, and it's interesting because they're kind of moving that way on SmackDown without really saying it. Because you notice, Paige handles all of the interaction with all of the women on SmackDown. Mm-hmm. But whenever something goes on with the guys on SmackDown, sometimes it's Paige, sometimes it's Shane.
Sure.
But Paige handles all the female interaction.
Well, and that's a good point because I was going to say in the last handful of years, at least in my opinion, correct me if I'm wrong, but you would hardly see the acting general manager interact with the women. It would always be, okay, the acting GM, if it was Angle or Triple H or anybody, would only get involved in the men's storylines, and the women would just be doing their thing.
Right.
They're, like you said, Mike, they're slowly starting to change that.
Now, the only thing I'll say is they do have to make a change. So, like, kind of similar how it is now, you have to have, like, Stephanie McMahon still has to be overseeing the men's division. I don't want to see them divide it where it's a man running the men and this and that.
Exactly.
Because they have to keep it. You can't have a woman answering to the man.
Right.
And that's just, realistic. But if we want to continue to go
on
some other names on the other side, we'll do it on the other side. John also asked, do we think there's going to be another women's pay-per-view? We'll talk about that on the other side. So, John, if you're with us or anybody else in the fam over on Facebook, Periscope, or Instagram, please
hop on over
to the YouTube. We got the link at the top of the page. We can drop it back in the comments as well. Second half, we're going to cover Daniel Bryan. I'll give our progress report on his heel turn. We'll talk about a few other news points that have come up over the last week or two. And then we'll obviously close it out with This Day in Wrestling. Again, first half sponsors, Gibson Mayer LLC, our certified public accountants. Make them yours, gibsonmayer.com. And Specialized Physical Therapy found in Burlington, Princeton, Cherry Hill, New Jersey. Also on the web, specializedphysicaltherapy.com. Scanzano Sports with the poll question. We will dive deeper into that the next half. So until then, we'll catch you guys in a couple minutes after our break.
everybody. I'm Ted DiBiase, the $1 Million Man, and everybody's got a price for lazy booking. Hey, this is your Olympic hero, Kurt Angle, and you're listening to the Lazy Booking. No, it's true. It's damn true. Ho! Hey, folks, I'm WWE Hall of Famer Hacksaw Jim Duggan, and if you want to know what's going on in wrestling, check out Lazy Bookings. Ho!
Welcome back to Lazy Booking Live on A2DRadio.com. We are on YouTube, so hopefully you made the jump from Facebook, Instagram, and Periscope. We had great conversation the first half, which seemed like it absolutely flew by.
Jesus. May have been the fastest hour of my day.
Yeah.
And that's no bullshit.
No, that's real talk from the Real Talk Studios.
Absolutely.
And obviously our show is brought to you by Gibson Mayer LLC, our certified public accountants. Make them yours, GibsonMayer.com. And by Specialized Physical Therapy. You can find them in Princeton, Cherry Hill, and Burlington, New Jersey. Also on the web, SpecializedPhysicalTherapy.com. Scanzano Sports Poll question. How do you grade the Daniel Bryan heel turn? A, B, C, D, F. If you have another grade, sure, make it up. Let's hear it.
Incomplete.
Incomplete.
I don't know.
So we're going to dive into that here in the second half. You had a couple more names on the list, so we kind of left off. We were going through the women's list.
Yes, please, Mr. Brodo.
So let's try to hammer through the rest of that, because I know we left quite a few names that we didn't get to, bigger names too, which may be interesting to talk about. So let's dive into that. And again, for people who may have missed the first half when we wrapped up, we had the question asked by John C. Danzo was top 5 women, which I think we all agreed very easily would be Ronda, Charlotte, Becky, Alexa Bliss, and Asuka. Hands down, no question. I think there's no argument there. We started going through, within the next 2 years, are they safe or unsafe? Maybe not necessarily gone, but are they going to be a focal point, or are they unsafe to where they will not have a job, or they're on the outs? So we'll continue the list.
The next name on the list, Natalya.
I think she's safe as long as she wants to be.
Yeah, she will be safe forever until she's ready to step away.
Nia Jax.
Safe.
Lineage.
Yep. Nikki Bella.
I put her in the same boat as Brie. I think if Total Divas and Total Bellas goes away, both the Bellas are gone. If those shows are still on, then she'll be around.
But there's always a job for them with the company.
Oh, yeah.
As far as in-ring, I can't really say safe or unsafe. It's whatever they choose to do. They'll always have an opportunity there. I mean, they were on the other day. I forget which college game it was, but it was in Madison Square Garden. They were on ESPN 2 nights ago. And it showed it was them representing the company. It was for the Jimmy V Foundation, and all these different cancer research foundations had donated money to the Jimmy V Foundation, and WWE, I believe, donated like $1.25 million or something like that, and the Bellas were the representatives, and they were interviewed on the sideline during the game. So they will always be there with the company as ambassadors.
I was going to say, but it'd be very easy for them to just simply not ever have any in-ring work for them.
Yeah, and John C. Danzo is back. Welcome back, John. We're continuing your question, and then we'll let's just answer this now. Do we believe there's going to be more all women's pay-per-views? I absolutely do.
I do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I don't think there will be more than 2 or 3 a year, and I think they will build to that number.
Sure.
But I could see 2019 you get 2. Maybe 2020 you get 2 again. Eventually you get to 3. But I think 3 probably caps the all-women's pay-per-view.
Well, I think we had talked about previously, right, where they have the NXT takeovers and whatnot. I could see them for some of the secondary pay-per-views
like
shifting to where that could be a Saturday night featured event, 2 or 3 times a year.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So the next name is...
Don't you do it. Don't you do it.
She's on the list.
She's off the list.
Peyton Royce.
No. Safe.
Yeah, absolutely safe.
Okay.
125,000% safe, if only in my dreams.
Ronda Rousey.
She's there as long as she wants to be there.
I was just going to say the same thing, as long as she wants to be.
Ruby Riott.
I think safe.
I think safe too.
I think there's big plans for her down
And
the road.
I think with her, it's because she is such a good in-ring worker, and she's got such a unique look. There's a lot that they could do with her.
Yeah, and can I say, I know we talked about how you said the Riot Squad doesn't do much for you. I would disagree in the sense that
I did say the Riot Squad outside of Ruby. Because I like her, and I like her work.
Right.
Sarah Logan does nothing for me, and I think Liv is being grossly underutilized.
But what I like is that a lot of times they will do this where they'll throw people together, and they kind of bought them in, and I like that they're not hot-shotting them together and breaking it up after 2 or 3 months.
Okay, very fair point.
Similar to when a lot of the women came up and they put, DCP and this and that or whatever they were, or DCB, whatever it was called.
Right.
Or PCB. Geez, I can't even get it right. Too many. But I like that they're not hot-shotting them, and they've been together for a good period of time now, and I'm enjoying that.
Sarah Logan.
Gone.
Gone.
I'm not even going to say unsafe. I think she's gone.
And I think it has nothing to do with her in-ring work. It's her character.
Yeah.
They can't do anything with that character.
Sasha Banks.
Safe.
Sonya Deville.
Safe.
Tamina.
Unsafe.
Lineage. And we kind of talked about that a little bit the first half of the show, that there's a lot of McMahon guilt there.
But I didn't give a response when you did that. I let
I
you
know.
guys talk about
I
it.
know. I noticed that.
I had to sit on it for a little bit. I think unsafe. I think at some point, they're giving her a spot now, but how long did it take to get to just to be somebody's second fiddle?
Yeah.
I think at some point they're going to cut bait.
And finally, Zelina Vega.
Safe. Might not be an in-ring performer, but she'll be safe.
Did you do Naomi?
No.
Oh, I did not.
Naomi's safe. As long as the
Who is
Usos
she?
are there, she's there. And
See-
she's actually a good worker.
See, and she was the one that I was waiting for, because I think
Where the hell is she? I don't even see her on the list.
I think her status is 100% tied to the Usos. I think if for any reason the Usos go, she goes.
Yeah, but I don't
Maybe.
think the Usos will go.
Oh, I don't think the Usos will go either.
I think the Usos are tag team gods to this company. And
Oh,
they
yeah.
and I'll be honest, as well
Rightfully
they should
so,
be.
Yeah.
I think arguably, you take them in New Day for a company that hasn't had a strong tag team division. I mean, those guys have had so many matches over the years, and every match has been different. And you look at the Usos, and I will admit that I trashed the Usos, and when they converted to this one-day-ish kind of a gimmick, I said it was way too late, and I couldn't buy in. They sucked me in, man. I'm really loving the work that they do, and they're so good in the ring.
Oh, yeah.
So the final name was Zelina.
Okay. Yeah, I think she'll be safe. I don't know about in-ring, but they'll find a spot for her.
Yeah.
I think they like her a lot. And her
You
and
mean
Alistair just got
Mrs.
back.
Mrs. Alistair Black.
Yeah, her and Alistair just got married.
Or whatever
so.
his real name is.
Mr. whatever. Yeah, no, it's great. Daniel Bryan, guys, let's talk about it. It's been a hot topic. And I just, to kind of gauge the waters, dropped it in a few groups this week.
Fickle.
Fickle.
But,
I'll be honest. I haven't known how to take it. Daniel Bryan is one of my favorite superstars of all time. And Daniel Bryan, admittedly coming in, it was underwhelming kind of, and I think we expected so much more from that Miz feud, and I don't know if it was creative or just didn't click this time around, but it didn't work. So I do agree that the character needed a change, but here's my perspective. It's unusual.
mm-hmm.
Like, I look at him, and you saw the picture side by side I put out.
I did, and it was creepy.
I don't.
But,
think,
I mean, creepy in a good kind of way.
I don't think it's by accident that he literally is dressing like a vegan Kurt Cobain, Seattle Boys, like to a T. The pictures I found were absolutely to a T. Hey, here's a Godfather.
It's a run-in.
Thomas Kennedy McMahon are known. What's up, buddy?
It's funny.
You do, of course you do. He's got to start doing a Tom walk.
With grapefruits. Well, I can tell you, for me, I'm good with the heel turn, but it's not the heel turn that I wanted.
Right.
Like, I wanted
I'll agree with you, but you go, and then I'll give you what I want.
I wanted, like, Ring of Honor final countdown technician. I'm going to kick the shit out of you and laugh in your face, Daniel Bryan, and I'll show you. That's the heel Daniel Bryan that I wanted.
I just feel like it's so kind of – it went from one thing to an absolutely extreme opposite very, very quickly. And my issue with it is that I have no problem if they would have done a gradual build to, like, you start seeing the turn or the demons or this, whatever you want to say, to where he becomes vegan, I'm better than you. Because it is a lot of – listen, and a lot of great points that I did here that kind of have opened me back up to the character is this is really who he is.
Right.
It's just the notches turned
up
way
to 10, yeah.
But I think it's so hard coming off of who he is, the Yes Movement, the fact that he's so exposed on all these reality shows to just this is a hot shot to me. That just go right from now he's talking about sitting in whatever kind of chambers and he's been having these thoughts all this time, but he came back and he was like Mr. Yes Man, like immediately. There was no gradual build to it.
And you're right, and that's the thing is like on Total Divas and Total Bellas, he's the babyface of the show. I mean, and if you go through all those shows and you pick every character on the show and you call them a heel or a babyface, he is the ultimate babyface of those shows. Of anybody. Like, he's just a genuinely good dude.
Right.
I mean, more so than his wife, way more so than his sister-in-law.
Yeah.
More so than John Cena or any of the rest of them. Yeah. He's the big babyface. So, for him to turn heel in the ring, I'm still okay with it.
Yeah.
But it's just no logic there.
Well, the execution originally, I was kind of like, when I first saw it. But then a couple hours later, I was like, I could get in behind this. And I thought that they really could have just continued to play off of, he's been have it pounded into his head for years from Miz that this is the guy you really are.
Right.
And they could have even utilized the way they kind of did it this week on Miz TV. This is the guy you really are, but you won't admit it to yourself, and you won't do anything it takes to win, which is what makes me better than you. And they could have flipped that off of the losses that Bryan had, and he could have came out and then been that guy you're talking about, but still done the heel ball kicking and everything else.
And it's funny that you say that because for me, the one thing that was missing this week was after Miz goes over on AJ Styles, and Daniel comes in and he does kind of a beat down on AJ. The thing that was missing from that whole scenario to me was Miz should have gotten back in the ring to celebrate the victory and maybe kind of laugh at AJ, and Daniel needed to come back in the ring and kick Miz in the balls too.
Yeah, I agree.
And you could have even had him, like, without a microphone, but loud enough for the cameras to pick it up. Say, I kicked him in the balls one time, and now I've kicked you in the balls one time. And that's it. And just leave it at that. Because that was his whole thing, was in the interview, he's like, yeah, I kicked him in the groin one time. I hope my daughter kicks every guy. You know. So it was... that was the whole thing was I kicked him in the groin one time.
Yeah.
So maybe everybody down the road gets kicked in the groin one time.
Yeah, I mean, that could have been a whole gimmick. Absolutely. And that's just the thing that...
And it would have started a Miz face turn.
Yeah.
And really kind of made Daniel look like a dick.
Yeah.
Which is what they want.
And that's kind of what I wanted to see. And again, if you wanted to start gradually getting to that point where, like, Punk with the Straight Edge Society. And that's my other beef with it. Again, the argument was, well, it's him turned all the way up. I don't totally agree with that because when Punk was the Straight Edge Society and I'm straight edge and I'm better than you and I can lead you to this, that, Punk is a condescending dickhead.
Oh, yeah.
It absolutely worked, and it was really his personality amped up, or maybe not as amped up as we thought, but it was amped up. it was much more believable, and it was subtle. It started with Jeff Hardy, and there was no better guy to do it with than Jeff Hardy. And it started to where you're not supporting me, and you're supporting this guy, though. And it gradually built over a couple of months to become this. He's the straight-edge Jesus or Messiah.
Messiah, right.
And it worked. And this was just so hotshot to where somebody said it's like he's like a vegan Bray Wyatt of the promos. Half of it doesn't even make that much sense. It kind of does, but kind of doesn't. You pick and choose the pieces that you want. We got the Thomas Kennedy McMahon are known walk through.
Take the freaking belt. Take the belt.
You can borrow the champ's belt. That's all right. Here, you can just drape it right over the shoulder of the champ.
It's like WrestleMania 2000 with the hardcore title.
Run!
Take it and run! Get in the taxi. It's like every 4 weeks.
I got this until close to Christmas time.
Oh, Christ.
Yeah.
I
wanted to go Jim Ross on that. By God, he stole it. He stole his belt.
You know,
he stole the belt.
Between the belt and Paul Goldschmidt's sign in St. Louis, I'm
Jesus
shocked I could walk in here and not knock everything off the table with the massive boner I have.
Yeah. Paul Goldschmidt signing with St. Louis while he's wearing a Houston Astros cap. Jabron.
It's time for another Jim Ross.
It goes with my Eddie
what
Guerrero
trash?
shirt.
The trash.
Crumb-ish, yes.
Crumb-ish. I'll take it. See you, buddy.
See ya.
But yeah,
Carnage.
It's like a car wreck in here.
this is like shining in Ryan's eyes now.
I don't have a freaking choice. I have to notice it.
No, but you know, that's the thing. It's just way too hot shot for me, and I really believe that they could have done a little bit more with it to make it more of a thing. But I'm open to it.
Answering the question, though, I'm going to say incomplete, and I know that's not one of the choices, but I'm going to make my choice anyway. Because I want to see where they go with it. Because I feel like they're going somewhere. And if they give him a little more creative control over his character, I feel like he will straighten it out.
Yeah, but everything I'm seeing is it is his creative control over this character.
I wonder, and I think what they're doing with him, and this is just my opinion, take it for what it's worth, is I think the office, so to speak, knows that he's a bit of a fruitcake with regards to, you know, the plastic bottles and the water and this and that and whatever. And they're writing this really outlandish shit for him using the stuff that they know that he's weird about. Whereas I think if they let him have the control, the weird stuff would be a lot more subtle, but there would be some things that he would also be real sharp about.
I think we're going to agree to disagree because I feel like this is how, if Daniel Bryan was this guy, this is exactly how he would talk. Mm-hmm. I think he has almost all creative control over this character, to be honest with you. I think he's a smart enough guy to know and have heard people's opinion and views on who are not on board with the vegan lifestyle. He's taking every criticism and every negative that people pull when they argue against it, and he's maximizing it to the highest level to come off as the biggest vegan douchebag in the world. So I absolutely think he has the creative control over it. It just seems so pushed and amped.
I just wonder if Vince McMahon somewhere along the way said, "Pal, vegans are douchebags."
I thought it was like breaking news.
Oh, it's NBA stuff. I want it. I'll tell you guys in a minute.
Okay. Yeah.
Vegans are douchebags, pal. So I'm going to make you look like a douchebag.
I have a question for you guys,
sure.
Okay? So it's a two-parter. Do you guys still think that the WrestleMania match with him is going to be against the babyface Miz?
I do.
Yeah.
I absolutely do.
Second part then, because I agree with that. How do you think they're going to spin it to get the vast majority of the crowd to buy it?
I don't know because I'm so confused by how drastic the change has been that I'm on a wait and see, to be honest with you. You could probably ask me around Rumble time, and I may have a little bit more clarity, but I have no idea where this character is heading right now.
Mike?
I have an idea.
So do I.
And I think it goes back to involving Maurice
There you go.
and Brie.
Yep, we got it.
But I think it's the way that they get there is they start painting Miz in the light of like he's father of the year, and Daniel's gone so far off the deep end that he's being like a really shitty father and husband, and Miz calls him out on it, and the flip happens. It's the only logical way I can think of for them to get there.
My idea, and it's going to go back to something they haven't done in a long time, okay? I think the way you get the crowd and the vast majority of the WWE Universe to flip on this is if Daniel Bryan, which it fits his character because of how over the top he is, this is why I think it is him, because they kind of know which direction they're going. I think they know that they have to do something drastic to get this to flip.
Yeah.
And I don't know if WWE would do this because it's on the line. I wonder if they do like something where they have like an off-location thing where Daniel Bryan like shows up to the house and is kind of like it goes back to like the Father of the Year thing on where on the Miz is protective of the family, where Daniel starts like. Not stalking the house, but you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of on the edge of it transcends wrestling. Like, we know Miz is always going to have the ego. He's never going to be what they tried to do with Ric Flair, of he's a protege, he's going to learn the ranks. It's none of that. It's, okay, I think I'm the best in the world, and that's the way it is. The Miz saying that. But when you mess with my family, then that's it. So I think it's going to be on the lines of that. You know what I mean?
So
well, listen, as
kind
long
of
as
a
a gun's not involved in this
No,
segment.
God, no.
I'm going like so along. I mean, are we talking along the lines of like what Samoa Joe did with AJ Styles, where it's like mental sort of warfare, or are you talking about Daniel actually showing up at the house while the Miz is there and having a physical confrontation?
I'm talking about flashbacks to Triple H versus Randy Orton. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Or Randy Orton versus Cena with the father.
With the father, okay.
And it's tough because obviously it's a father. Like, you can do more things with a father than a wife and a child. Like, I get that. That's why it's going to be tough.
Well, here.
By the way, I was kidding with the gun thing.
No, I know you were.
The Pillman thing.
I know exactly
what you were referring to.
Because you were saying, do you think they would do it as over the line? As long as a gun's not involved, nothing's over the line. I think that they're fine.
Well, although I did read something very interesting, literally, like this morning, is that the reason that this mixed match challenge, the reason they are not intergender matches, and the reason that you no longer in WWE will ever see any male on female contact is part of their deal with Mattel, with the action figures, is that they will not have any real or portrayed depiction of male on female violence. So men and women are not allowed to have any intentional contact in the ring, and they can't portray any sort of domestic situation either. So the closest that you're going to get to something that could be deemed domestic would be like Samoa Joe sitting on AJ Styles' front porch.
Yep.
Other than that, like, you know, with Wendy showing up at the pay-per-view with their daughter, did you notice how far away from the ring she was sitting? That is not an accident. That is Mattel sponsorship money on the line there.
So what if it's kind of like, and that's a good point, if you go back and say the Miz, and I don't even know, like, I always thought it was kind of cheesy where they had, like, say, for example, the Miz, I'm like, fill-in-the-blank wrestlers at the arena, and then something happens at the house, and there's already a camera crew there.
Right, yeah.
Like, so I don't know.
Suspension of disbelief.
Like, I don't know if I want to go that route, but say, for example, Miz is in the middle of a match, or he's at Smackdown, and Daniel Bryan's nowhere to be found.
Right.
And then you see, like, the Miz gets a phone call. Or maybe, like, it's in the middle of a backstage interview, and the Miz says, you hear Maurice on the line, like, Daniel Bryan, he's at the house. He's outside the house. Just something like that, just to make it it's not domestic to where there's no violence happening, but it's across the line, and it kind of makes the image of we're not saying anything. But you know what I mean? It just enters that realm because it's tough to side with somebody that does that.
You know what's so great about that, though, too? They could actually shoot that on a loop through Texas and just stick it in the can and sit on it until they need to use it. Because now that they're doing, Ms. and Mrs., everybody knows what their house looks like. So if they were to actually go to Mrs. house on like a Saturday or something like that while they're on a tour of Texas, because they moved to Austin, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, they moved from Los Angeles to Austin. So while they're in Austin, like they were just there last week, they shoot something like that at the Mrs. house, and they just take the tape, put it in a can, and if we ever need it, there it is. It's not bad, Ryan. It's not bad at all.
See, what I'm going to say, because my brain's running a little bit, if they go the route of Father of the Year, which would make sense, I think it's going to be less about like Brian's over the edge stalking a house, and I think it's going to be more about they'll show more of like behind closed doors at the home, and his kid's there, and he's talking about this vegan lifestyle, and it's like he won't let his kid enjoy these things, and it's like over the top to where like you can't do this because you'll be a terrible person if you do this, and it's like kind of like embedding crazy ideas into your kid's head that you're an awful person if you do something that everyday folk do, yada yada yada, but they portray Miz being this great dad and having fun with his kid, and like you said on Miz and Mrs., to where people can be really extreme with their kids. And then listen, I mean, it's your choice however you rate. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but there are people that will be extreme. You can't touch this, you can't do this, yada yada yada, to where they'll be like aggressively reprimanding their children. And I feel like that could be the route to where it's like Miz is a pretty good guy, and Bryan is like over the top. He's now pushing this on an innocent child, and they can kind of spin it that way.
See, while I like that idea, what I worry about is the writers and the staff developing that
they would have
portraying that the right way on television.
I think that they would have to give those two guys the creativity on this, and I believe that they may.
Because while that's a very good idea, if they, quote, WWE-ify it, it could come across cheesy in 2 seconds.
Agreed, but I will say this. I don't think it's an accident that within the Shane McMahon-Miz storyline that's happening right now, they are treating the
trophy like a
trophy
child.
like it's a child.
I agree.
I don't think that's an accident at all.
I agree. John C. Danzo. He says, I think Daniel Bryan will be a bigger star now that he's heel because the crowd will love him no matter what. David Rosca says, Austin Aries is so pissed at Vega. He says, Aries is pissed at Vega getting married. John C. Danza, you might know the answer to this.
Okay.
I don't. He says, I have a piece of trivia for you. With them toying with making a women's tag team title, which I'm happy to hear that they're starting to now acknowledge the idea on television.
Yep.
He says, who were the last two teams that fought for those titles?
The last two teams? God.
I mean, they make it sound like there was never one, but did WWE did? Was it the Jumping Bomb Angels didn't? Were they not women's tag team champions?
They were not. At least I don't believe they were. I know that I want to say the last.
I'm shocked I remember that name, the Jumping Bomb Angels.
They were a good Japanese women's tag team. I want to say that the last WWF women's tag team champions were, and Ryan, I don't know if you can Google this at some point. I want to say it was like Velvet McIntyre and Judy Grable, I think.
That could be.
One moment.
So Ryan's going to get us.
And if I'm right about this.
Unless John wants to give us the answer.
Oh, he just did.
The Jumping Bomb Angels.
It was? Okay.
And the Glamour Girls. I forgot about the Glamour Girls.
The Glamour Girls. I forgot about that, too.
I remember that the Jumping Bomb Angels had a feud with, And I think it might have been like the first original Royal Rumble that they may have even had a tag match against the Glamour Girls. I'd have to go back. I know it was one of those 88 pay-per-views. There was a match between those two teams. Great question, John.
Yeah,
Hey, I'll take
That's a damn good
I'll
question.
take half credit on that. I can't. That was the only women's tag team off the top of my head I can remember. Was the Jumping Bomb Angels? But yeah. So, a couple news points. We already said 41, and this is aside from wrestling.
Yeah.
George H.W. Bush, president number 41, passed away. God bless him. God bless his family. Whether you believe in his political views or not, he's a pretty good guy.
Yeah.
So, condolences to them. Also, in the wrestling world, we lost Dynamite Kid. Yep. Whether you loved or hated him personally, we don't have to dive into that. A very influential wrestler in the ring, for sure. Do you have any Dynamite moments or matches that you enjoyed?
I can actually tell you that one of the first big time matches that I can remember seeing, and I say that because like when I was a little kid, like I would watch the stuff on like Saturday mornings on Channel 29 or Saturday afternoons on Channel 17, but that was always like star versus enhancement talent. Mm-hmm. Very rarely did you ever get a competitive match on those shows. But at that time, I think we were getting like Channel 9 out of New York, WOR, and every now and then they would pick up Madison Square Garden, MSG, wrestling. And my dad introduced me to big-time wrestling by telling me, hey, come in here and watch this. And it was the Dynamite Kid versus Tiger Mask at Madison.
Tiger Mask. I remember Tiger Mask.
Madison Square Garden. And it, to this day, may still be one of the best cruiserweight / light heavyweight matches I've ever seen. And it was 38 years ago, give or take.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a big fan of the British Bulldogs. I didn't dig the Matilda gimmick.
Oh, I love the.
I love the dog.
I'll admit, I was not.
I love the dog, but when they started using the dog as part of the gimmick in the match, I could do without.
I wasn't a huge fan of the Bulldogs. I'm not even gonna lie, but I mean, I was a kid then. I enjoyed the dog more than I enjoyed the tag team. I was never. I just wasn't a big Dynamite Kid fan, but I understand how good of a worker he was and well respected he was as far as that. So it's a very sad loss, and I know Ryan's probably never watched a Dynamite Kid match in his life.
Fair.
You know who he was?
Yeah, no, I know who he was.
Okay. Interesting though. Part of the whole thing with him passing away actually made me reflect back on Chris Benoit. Because, I mean, it's if there was a modern-day version of the Dynamite Kid, at least in terms of the in-ring style, it was him.
Sure. I think a lot of his career was modeled after Dynamite Kid.
Yeah. I think it's, he passes, and you think about all of the guys that he influenced. Benoit, I think, being the closest in style, for lack of a better term.
Sure.
But there was some influence on the Harts.
Yeah.
Some influence on the Guerreros. Obviously, absolutely. And then, by default, then, a lot of the Canadian guys, because of their relationship with the Hart family.
Sure.
And, it was... His reach was, I think, a lot larger than a lot of people realize.
Yeah, and I think for me, I wasn't. I mean, when they were really on fire, I was very, very young. But I can say that I do remember the feud with the Hart Foundation, and I remember enjoying that as a kid. I've always thought, even as a kid, that Davey Boy was probably going to be the bigger star of the two.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I mean they were a very impressive tag team.
Oh yeah.
They were a tag team that was it's what I always enjoy. I always enjoy a contrast in a tag team. I like having the powerhouse, brute strength type of guy, and then the guy who's the more of the worker or the high flyer type of a guy. You had kind of that fusion with Dynamite. You know, like you said, he could work a Benoit type of style, but he had that power. And then you had the brute strength of Davey Boy Smith, and it just worked so well together.
Right.
So, you know, rest in peace to him. Also, I don't know if you saw today Larry the Axe Hennig.
Yes.
Kurt Hennig's father.
Curtis Axel's
Curtis
grandfather.
Axel. I almost said.
Yeah. Michael McGillicuddy.
I almost said Michael McGillicuddy. Curtis Axel's father, grandfather, passed away.
82.
82 years old. Another legend in the business.
Big time.
Big time
And
legend.
if you followed AWA in the late 70s
Sure.
and early 80s, they're the only star bigger than Larry the Axe Hennig, or the stars, I should say, were probably Nick Bockwinkel and Hulk Hogan.
Absolutely. So rest in peace to him, another great legend. And if you never had a chance to see his stuff, I mean, if you appreciate old-time wrestling, you would definitely enjoy going back and checking out some of his stuff on YouTube. I don't know how much is actually on the network. So do we have any other news points you really want to touch on this week?
I have a couple of in this days.
I as well. So why don't we dive into those and we'll see. Maybe we'll have some talking points. If not, we can wrap up some loose ends at the end if we go through this. Do you want to go back and forth or do you want to go first?
You go ahead and go first.
All right. I got you. 31 years ago today, and I only mention this because a douchebag was on the card, was the 14th edition of Saturday Night's Main Event. Took place in Landover, Maryland, where Strikeforce, Douchebag Santana, and Rick Martel defeated the Bolsheviks, Nikolai Volkov and Boris Zukov. 2-0 in a best-of-3 falls. This also was Jake Roberts defeated Sika, who Sika is part of the lineage of the Samoans.
Yes.
Hulk Hogan defeats King Kong Bundy to retain the WWF title, and Greg Valentine defeated Coco Beware.
Nice.
There you go.
On this date, in 1986, Atlanta, Georgia, Ravishing Rick Rude and the Raging Bull Manny Fernandez, managed by number 1 Paul Jones, defeated the Rock and Roll Express to win the NWA World Tag Team Championships for the first time, and it ended the Rock and Roll Express's 3rd NWA Championship title reign.
Interesting. Very, very interesting. Speaking of expresses, 30 years ago was the Clash of the Champions 4 Seasons Beatings.
Ooh, okay.
Main event, the Four Horsemen, Barry Windham and Ric Flair defeated the Midnight Express of Bobby Eaton and Stan Lane.
Beautiful Bobby and Sweet Stan.
Sweet
the Midnight
Stan.
Express. Yes.
Can I just say real quick, do you guys listen to Something to Wrestle With?
Oh, yeah.
Phenomenal, by the way.
Absolutely.
The episodes can be long. It's Bruce Pritchard's podcast. The episodes can be very, very long. Sometimes I'll listen to it in pieces over 3 days. And I'm just thinking of it now because I just listened to it this week, and some of the names that we've thrown out. Go back and listen to the 93 Survivor Series episode. It's about 2 hours long, a little over. My God. Some of the stuff that went on around that time, and they mentioned Stan Lane and some other things. It was very interesting. If you're interested in that kind of stuff, and Bruce Pritchard, like when Mike does the voices, sometimes I think of Pritchard. When you were doing your Vince impression.
Listen, pal.
It's so good.
Well, I think that's me doing Pritchard doing Vince. I don't think that's me doing Vince.
Yeah.
But it's funny.
It just reminds me of that. And he's
Oh,
great because
Pritchard
he was
is
there for
really
everything.
good, yeah.
Yeah. What do you got?
Apologies. I had it and I lost it.
That's all right. I'll go then you get that one. 29 years ago, Haystacks Calhoun passed away at 55 years of age.
Actually, another one here. If he were still with us today, would be Nick Bockwinkel's 84th birthday.
Well, happy birthday, Nick.
Today, December 6th, 1971.
Ooh.
So this is 5 weeks before I was born.
Okay.
New York, Madison Square Garden. And this will be interesting if anybody picks up, any of our older fans pick up on this. Karl Gotch and Rene Goulet defeated Crazy Luke Graham and Tarzan Tyler to win the WWF World Tag Team Championship.
Yeah.
At the same time, Graham and Tyler were also the reigning WWF International Tag Team Champions, though that title was not on the line. And the reason that I bring that up is through my childhood, Rene Goulet and Karl Gotch were enhancement talent.
Yeah.
Very similar to Tony Garea,
Mm-hmm.
SD Jones. There were a lot of guys in my childhood that I just looked at as huge jobbers, but apparently, like, before I was born or before I really was following wrestling, a lot of them had runs with, like, the Tag Team Championship or the Intercontinental title, whatever.
That's crazy.
It is crazy.
22 years ago today at the ECW Arena, Holiday Hell. Couple of the matches featured on this card were Taz defeating Rob Van Dam.
Mm-hmm.
Brian Lee defeated Louis Spicolli, two deceased guys right there.
Primetime Brian Lee.
Francine and Shane Douglas defeat Beulah and Tommy Dreamer. And main event was Raven defeating the Sandman in a barbed wire massacre match to win the ECW World Heavyweight title. I never saw that match. I'd like to go back. I might watch that on the network.
Did you ever get to see ECW live in its original incarnation?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it was an experience.
It was an absolute experience.
If you remember this, 21 years ago today was the Degeneration X In Your House pay-per-view. I remember
I
watching
absolutely
that
remember
pay-per-view.
that.
Main event, Ken Shamrock defeated Shawn Michaels by DQ to win the just in a WWF title match. And Steve Austin defeated The Rock to retain the Intercontinental title.
I feel like I have a DVD of that.
You probably do.
I didn't see it live.
I would
here we go.
bet that you do.
Yesterday, Lawrence Whistler, otherwise known as the living legend Larry Zbyszko, turned 67.
Okay.
And I bet you he could still go.
Oh, I would absolutely bet that. 11 years ago today, tribute to the troops from Tikrit, Iraq.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Jericho defeats Randy Orton. Jeff Hardy over Carlito. Kelly and Layla versus Maria and Mickey James. Rey Mysterio defeats Mark Henry. Ron Simmons defeats Hardcore Holly. And DX defeats Mr. Kennedy and Umanga.
Mr. Kennedy!
Anderson.
By the way, I always hated that guy.
Kennedy.
Anderson.
Nice. It's good work by you.
One more little tidbit to throw in here at the end. The 33rd birthday of one Mr. Dean Ambrose today. John Moxley.
A.K.A. John Moxley.
A.K.A. Bane.
Bane.
Also, Tamara Lee Sitch's Sonny. I don't know why I'm even trying. Sonny's birthday today.
Her 1 year anniversary in porn. I mean, it's her birthday. What?
They're rough if you ever seen the videos. They ain't fun, I can tell you that. Today would have been Rick Rude's 60th birthday. A lot of birthdays. The last 2 weeks, we've had some really good birthdays to go over.
What I like right now is for all you fat, out of shape Philadelphia sweat hogs
Pennsylvania piss ants.
to keep the noise down.
Listen, I'll end it on this. I'll bet at 60 years old, that dude would still look just as jacked and the same as he did back then.
Guarantee it.
Great show this week, guys. Fam, if you join us on YouTube, Periscope, Instagram, Facebook.
Appreciate you.
Appreciate you. Next week, Mikey will be back with us again, sitting in for Maddie. Ryan Brodo over on the ones and twos. Our sponsors, Gibson Mayer, LLC, Specialized Physical Therapy, Scanzano Sports. Guys, we appreciate it. Have a great...
Am I allowed? Am I allowed?
We got to come up with something different, man, like a shake or something. Yeah, you got it. Till next week, guys. We'll talk to you soon. Good night from the champ.
What? Fickle.
Fickle.
Fickle.